Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Timey-Wimey Tuesday. I just realized I gotta sit forward a bit, because behind I'm spookily in shadow. Well, last time we took a look at two selections from my Doctor Who vinyl collection. Yes, Doctor Who on record! Got Doctor Who sound effects. I guess I could have shown them side by side. Never mind, silly me. We'll do that with the ones today. And Out of This World, atmospheric sounds and effects from the BBC Radiophonic Workshop. Awesome! So that covered our sound effects. Today, we got a couple others, specifically to do with music. Yes, Doctor Who music, and it's certainly had quite a variety of music over the years. It's interesting to hear the style, how the styles of music have changed over the history of the series. Back in the 60s, they used a lot of atmospheric stuff in the BBC Radiophonic Workshop. They also used a lot of stock music that wasn't strictly composed for Doctor Who. Later on, they got their own sort of in-house stable of composers, and throughout the 70s, a lot of it was done by small chamber orchestras, and they would have unique scores composed for every single story, which was pretty cool. And then right through till the 80s, when the classic series ended, again, it would have sort of their in-house stable of composers, this time very synthesizer-based, to give it a very, more modern kind of sound at the time, and futuristic kind of sound. But some really cool stuff. So today, we're going to take a look at two of the music albums I have based on the show on vinyl on Timey-Wimey Tuesday. On the Multimedia Chronicles. I don't know why I'm doing it like that. All right, go. Welcome back. Okay, without wasting any time, let's get right to it here. First off, I listened to the heck out of this one. We've got Doctor Who, the music. Yeah, there you go. Beautiful painted picture of the five doctors there. Is that Andrew Skilleter? That is Ian McCaig. Never mind. I just assumed it was Andrew Skilleter because he's sort of one of the big Doctor Who artists. But yeah, beautiful painted cover there by Ian McCaig. An artist I'm not overly familiar with, but I'm certainly familiar with this cover, having listened to this album and looked at this cover so many times over the years. This is a beautiful, beautiful album. They actually did a second one as well, Doctor Who The Music 2, which sadly I never got around to picking up. Now, both this and its follow-up were re-released on CD in slightly altered form. We had Doctor Who The Music Volumes 1 and 2. I think one was called The Five Doctors, and it had, because this one has selections from The Five Doctors as well as some other stuff. And then the other was something else, I don't remember. But anyway, slightly altered, more or less the same track listing, but slightly different. So what do we got on here? What do we got? Side 1, we have TARDIS, Doctor Who, which is basically the original 60s version of the Doctor Who theme before it was slightly altered in the later 60s and maintained that way throughout the 70s. So it's basically the original version of the theme with some sound effects of the TARDIS taking off and landing mixed into it. So for the longest time, that was the only sort of version of the theme that I owned and such. And I noticed even at the time listening to it, it was slightly different than the 70s version, which I was most familiar with. But I was just glad to have some version of the theme on there. And it's a full-length version, too. It's like 2.5, 3 minutes long, something like that. Then we have the Sea Devils, with which was... so I should tell you the composers here. We've got TARDIS Doctor Who, which was, of course, composed by Ron Grainer and arranged and recorded by Delia Derbyshire. And the TARDIS sound was actually created by Brian Hodgson, of course, both of them being from the BBC Radiophonic Workshop. And then we have the Sea Devils, composed by Malcolm Clarke. At the time that I got this album, this came out in 1983, I had still not seen any of the Third Doctor's adventures. I think the Five Doctors was the first I'd ever seen the Third Doctor in action. It wasn't until a little ways after that that the PBS station I was watching them on actually got his adventures as well, so I was able to see his adventures finally. Up until then, they only had the Tom Baker ones. Then we have Meglos, composed by Peter Howell. And then we've also got Nissa's theme and Cassia's wedding music, and The Threat of Melkor, all from The Keeper of Traken and composed by Roger Lim. We've got Exploring the Lab and Nissa is Hypnotized. Is this from Four to Doomsday? That's what it is, yeah. So pretty cool, and that's also by Roger Lim. And then finally we have The Leisure Hive, basically just a suite of music from The Leisure Hive, composed by Peter Howell. I always really liked the music in The Leisure Hive, actually. That was notable because that was the story where we kind of switched over to the 80s. It was 1980. We got a new version of the theme song, new title sequence, and a new kind of look and feel for the show. So pretty cool stuff. And you can definitely hear that change in the music. In fact, you'll notice most of the music in this collection is from the 80s. I think the only classic stuff they have from like earlier is the original theme and then the Sea Devils. I don't know. I remember thinking at the time, I got the impression that they wanted to stick more to the modern stuff because it had they wanted that more modern synthesizer kind of sound, and it also meant that they could have the album in stereo a little more easily because a lot of the older stuff is in mono. It would have to be faked in stereo, whereas this was all recorded in stereo originally and then down mixed to mono for the TV show. Let's see. Side 2, we've got Omega Field Force, Ergon Threat, and Termination of the Doctor from Arc of Infinity, composed by Roger Lim. Then we've got Banqueting Music from Warrior's Gate, composed by Peter Howell. TSS Machine Attacked from Kinda, composed by Peter Howell. And then we've got Janissary Band from the sequel to Kinda, Snake Dance, composed by Peter Howell. Then we've got Subterranean Caves, Requiem, and March of the Cybermen, composed by Malcolm Clark. That's really good, by the way. I really like the music in that. I always have. That's a really good soundtrack. Earthshock just generally is a really good Fifth Doctor story. One of the all-time great classic Cybermen stories. And then finally, track 10, we have the 1980 version of the theme, arranged by Peter Howell, based on the original composition by Peter Grainer. No, Ron Grainer. Wow, blanking there hard. All right, I'll just do a quick zoom into the cover there so you can look at all the gorgeousness. Front and back, of course. So there we go. So this album was, of course, released in 1983, which was the 20th anniversary of Doctor Who. There was a lot of stuff going on that year, and I think that's probably one of the years where I acquired the most Doctor Who merchandise at the time. And if we just flip it around there, lots of stuff to read. Hope you can read it. If you've got a nice big screen and you're watching this in 1080p, you should be able to read it no problem. Alrighty. Very nice indeed. I should mention the diamond logo is my favorite version of the logo, as you may have noticed. All right, so carrying on, we've got one more to take a look at here. Now this, much like the second one we looked at last time, this one is not strictly a Doctor Who album. In fact, it's very peripherally related. But what we have here is from Jeff Love and his orchestra, Star Wars and Other Space Themes. Yes, Jeff Love, there's the man himself. There you go. So they describe it as, it says you may not recognize the name, but I know you'll recognize the music. If you listen to a radio station that plays beautiful music, then you've listened to Jeff Love, for he is one of the most frequently used artists in this format. In fact, if Jeff Love didn't exist, we'd have to invent him. To be asked to write liner notes for an album is an honor. To be asked to write notes for Jeff Love's first U.S. albums is a privilege. I am sure that you are going to enjoy these albums and look forward, as I do, to many more to come. Oh, never mind. You know what? All these years I thought that was Jeff Love. That's not Jeff Love. That's the guy who wrote the liner notes. Never mind. Now, beautiful music. capital B, capital M, also known as Muzak. Yes, so this is essentially celebrating a composer of elevator music renditions of popular music. And I got one of his albums, baby. Oh, yeah. So how is this related to Doctor Who? Well, basically what this is this is, you know, very unique orchestrations, like orchestral versions of various famous science fiction themes. So I'll just quickly go through the track list here. On side one, we got the main title from Star Wars. We've got UFO, theme from Star Trek, Barbarella, Space 1999, and also Sprach Zarathustra from 2001. Side 2, we've got The March from Things to Come, Thunderbirds, Princess Leia's theme from Star Wars, Doctor Who, When Worlds Collide, and Mars, Bringer of War from Quatermass. I should mention this was the first time I had ever heard of Quatermass. I later became acquainted with the character a little more through the Hammer films, and when I came across recordings of some of the original BBC versions. Yeah, a lot of people think of Professor Bernard Quatermass as being in many ways a forerunner to Doctor Who. Even though he was human, he was based on Earth. Very, you know, the stories were serialized and they dealt with strange science fiction occurrences, much like what the Doctor deals with. Now, an interesting note about the the Doctor Who theme on here. Apparently, this version of the theme was used in some kind of, like, I don't know, Italian spy movie or something. It was really weird. I saw a clip of it on YouTube once, and I was like, hey, not only is that the Doctor Who theme, that's the Doctor Who theme I have from that obscure Muzak album that apparently only I've ever heard of. So that was pretty cool. Pretty cool indeed. If you really want to see the back, there it is. I'm not going to go to all the trouble of zooming in on it because I'm pretty sure you can probably read it from there because the liner notes are so gigantic, and I just read everything of significance on the back anyway. But at the time, it was a bit of a novelty for me to hear the Doctor Who theme rendered by an orchestra, even if it was kind of a, in the Muzak style that this orchestra does. But it was cool. I never thought, like, I had always thought of it as a synthesizer-based theme, or, I guess a radiophonic workshop-based theme where they just use all these otherworldly sounds. Funny thing is, the original version of the theme really doesn't use any synthesizers, apparently. They use some electronic devices for generating some of the sounds in it, but for the most part, it's everyday sounds that have been modified and processed in different ways to create those unique sounds that form the basis of the theme. But there's really no they don't actually use any synthesizers in it. There's some videos around, I think in the Doctor Who The Beginning set, there's a documentary about the creation of the theme song, and they actually have some archival interviews with Delia Derbyshire about how she assembled it and such, and pretty cool stuff. So there you go. That is it for the Doctor Who vinyl collection. Next time, well, I don't know. We're on a bit of a music kick. Maybe next time we'll take a look at my Doctor Who CDs. Would you like that? And we'll sort of take a look at where things went after the age of analog and vinyl. Again, much of my Doctor Who collection, I don't have all the CDs that I used to. Actually, come to think of it, I think I'm only missing one. I did manage to recover some of them. But, so we'll take a look at what I've got and sort of give you the overview there. And nice close-up looks at the covers and stuff. And, we'll do that next time. So until then, big thanks to my Patreon sponsors. Special thanks to Kyle Pellegrini, who's my current highest level sponsor. Thanks, Kyle. Really appreciate the ongoing support. And big thanks to everybody else as well. Please do consider becoming a sponsor because it just means I can do more of this stuff for you. Even if it's just $1 a month. That's like $12 a year out of your pocket to help make the Multimedia Chronicles even better than ever before. So there you go. Just saying. Alrighty. We'll see you next time. Until then, thanks for watching, and sayonara. Ow! Well, guess that's on the blooper reel.